Burnout is spreading, morale is shaky, and your team is silently asking, can I trust you to lead me through this? In this episode, I'll show you how to lead your team through uncertainty without burning them out or losing yourself in the process. These are the people first, performance driven strategies that high performing leaders are using right now to hold it together and to move their teams forward. When times are uncertain, people don't just need strong plans, they need strong leaders. Leaders who help them stay steady, even when the path ahead is unclear. Your team doesn't expect you to have every answer, but they're watching closely how you show up, how you communicate, and how you create the emotional and strategic conditions for them to thrive. Today, we're diving into how strong leaders guide their teams through uncertainty with real strategies you can start applying immediately. And as I've said before, these lessons I'm about to lay out apply whether you're an executive leading large teams, a manager, an individual contributor, an entrepreneur, a creator, or a full-time caregiver. Anyone who interacts with others, needs others to help them accomplish their goals, or needs to influence and guide others will benefit from these strategies I'll be sharing. First, lead the emotional climate. Your emotional state isn't private when you lead, it's contagious. Whether you realize it or not, your team picks up on your micro signals, your tone of voice, your body language, the pace of your speech. And in times of uncertainty, your emotional presence becomes a thermostat for the entire group. If you lead with steadiness, courage, and realism, your team mirrors it. One of the simplest but most powerful ways to lead the emotional climate is to name what's real. You might say, I know this is a lot. I'm feeling it too. Or here's how we're staying steady. It's honest without being paralyzing. Leaders who name emotions calmly help diffuse the tension that otherwise builds silently in teams during change. As I reflect on my career journey, my very first boss post-undergraduate still stands out as a great example of how to have very high expectations, but to also create an environment of emotional safety. I worked for Jeff Jordan, who went on to have a storied career in tech and VC. I was a political science major with the goal of attending law school who found herself on a business detour. And I'll never forget Jeff's words to me one afternoon early in my role in corporate strategy. Mind you, these are the days before the internet. He walked into my office, placed a stack of data on my desk, asked me to run some regressions, told me he was heading to the airport for his flight to London and that I should fax, yes, fax, the results to his hotel. I told you this was before the internet, so like a deer in the headlights, 20-year-old qualitative on the way to law school me looked at Jeff and said, "What's a regression?" He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Figure it out." There was no coddling, but also no anger or disgust. It was late afternoon, and I had that evening and night to figure it out, run them, and fax them to London. Why does this story still make me smile all of these years later? Because Jeff was always affable, kind, strict, precise, and fair. He didn't say, "Oh, I'll find someone else to do it." He didn't say, "Well, just do the best you can." He didn't say, "Oh no, why did I hire you?" though he may have thought it. He believed I could do it. So I did. Strong leadership playbooks, including the Momentum playbook that I created, emphasize leading emotional climates proactively, not leaving it to chance. You don't have to pretend everything's fine. You just have to lead through it with steadiness and care. Second point, build psychological safety before you need it. Psychological safety isn't optional in turbulent times. It's survival. If your team is afraid to speak up, to admit confusion, to raise concerns, small problems snowball into major breakdowns. Trust isn't built reactively. It has to be woven into daily leadership practices long before a crisis hits. Building psychological safety starts with rewarding candor. When someone raises a tough issue, publicly thank them, even if it's uncomfortable to hear. Create meeting rhythms where questions and feedback are expected, not exceptional. React to mistakes first with curiosity, like, "Help me understand what happened," rather than punishment. Momentum-oriented leadership systems teach you to cultivate psychological safety like an asset, because in uncertainty, leaders need fast truth, not filtered stories. And that only happens in teams where safety isn't an aspiration, it's the norm. Third, activate distributed leadership. In complex times, centralized leadership models collapse under their own weight. One leader can't hold all the decision making and still move fast enough. Distributed leadership, empowering capable people at every level to lead decisively, becomes essential for resilience and speed. And activating distributed leadership starts with giving real authority, not just tasks. Clarify who owns what and what level of decision making power they hold. Encourage initiative taking by celebrating when people solve problems without escalating unnecessarily. And be explicit that distributed leadership isn't about abdication, it's about equipping. Now, look, of course, this is nuanced. This doesn't mean that a chain of command no longer applies. And we know that the buck stops with a good leader. But it does mean that if a system is built without distributed leadership, executives can become the bottleneck as their teams are not empowered to act. And distributed leadership isn't a loss of control, it's a smart form of scalable influence, especially when complexity multiplies. Fourth, build collective resilience. In complexity, individual grit is no longer enough. It's team resilience that determines how fast you recover and move forward. And resilient teams don't just work harder, they adapt together, protect each other's energy, and maintain purpose even through setbacks. Building collective resilience means intentionally teaching recovery strategies. For example, create spaces where people can name challenges without shame. Celebrate adaptability, not just outcomes. Build in rituals that restore team energy. Fast wins, humor, celebrations of progress, even when full success isn't reached yet. The best leadership frameworks embed resilience as an organizational competency, not just an individual trait. Look, the future won't be won by teams who never get knocked down. It will be won by teams who get back up together faster. 5, operationalize learning from failure. Failure isn't the enemy in complexity. Silence around failure is. The faster you extract lessons from mistakes and move forward, the healthier your team culture becomes. Leaders who operationalize learning create organizations that adapt faster than its competitors. Make debriefs after setbacks a normal, non-emotional practice. Focus on systems and processes that failed, not just individuals. Build living lessons learned documents that teams update and revisit. And most importantly, model a leadership tone that says failure is information, not indictment. Leadership systems that perform under pressure bake fast cycle learning into everyday rhythms. And uncertainty, feedback isn't just helpful, it's everything. 6, normalize the management of change fatigue. Here's a reality too few leaders name out loud. Constant change wears humans out. Even resilient, adaptable people eventually hit a wall if leaders don't intentionally manage the emotional cost of relentless change. Recognizing and normalizing change fatigue is a leadership superpower. Start by calling it out. You can say things like, "This is a lot. It's okay if you're tired. It doesn't mean you're weak." Build in small recovery cycles after major initiatives. Rotate responsibilities to share the cognitive and emotional load. Encourage personal restoration practices, whether it's real weekends off, group coaching, executive circles, or mental health support. Momentum building leadership systems don't assume unlimited endurance. They plan for fatigue, create recovery paths, and sustain performance because they protect human energy. And finally, lead with micro visibility. In stressed environments, and especially those that have remote, hybrid, or otherwise, visible leadership matters more than ever. It's critically important to build this in, especially as so many teams are cross-functional and geographically dispersed. But it's not about being omnipresent. It's about small, consistent touches that remind people that they're seen, valued, and supported. Host 5-minute virtual office hours. Send short voice memos or Loom videos to check in, not just email updates. Recognize small wins publicly and create lightweight rhythms where people can feel your leadership presence without needing a crisis to get your attention. Strong leadership frameworks don't just focus on big speeches and all hands meetings. They teach small moments of visibility, frequent relational touches that build trust and belonging in a noisy, complex world. Great leadership in uncertainty isn't about pretending things are fine. It's about helping people move forward even though the road is tough. Your role isn't to have all of the answers, it's to create an environment where each team member can function at their highest level. Creating safety, direction, open lines of communication, and forward momentum help to do this. In our next episode, we're leveling up even further. So, how do you not just survive uncertainty, but drive clarity, culture, and momentum across your organization? Please like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time.